Author, strategist, and evangelist, Chris Smith is ready to weave his firsthand old-school experience with new-school tactics, mapping out a winning formula for real estate success with inside sales. Let's welcome this audience favorite, Chris Smith.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm actually going to read a list of names here, and if you hear your name called, it means you still have a job. And if you don't hear your name called, you have 5 minutes to turn in your badge and leave the building. That was how a meeting started, my first week in the boiler room. And when my coach came back in, I'll never forget what he said, because he only kept half the staff. He came in, he said, guys, I know a lot of those people were your relatives. I know a lot of those people were your friends, and I can see that you're very upset. I know some of them might have even been your spouse. But I want you to know one thing. I want you to know that I didn't fire any of them. They all fired themselves because they didn't hit their numbers. Now get back on the goddamn phone. Thankfully, I had a pretty good first week. When you come to Inman, guys, you're here to learn about marketing. You're here to learn about technology. You're literally here to learn about the latest and greatest. But I want to put out a challenge to the marketers and the technology people here right now. I want you to come with me for a day, and I want you to call the leads you're generating, and then tell me if you wouldn't fire yourself. The boiler room is tough, guys, but inside sales and being good on the phone is where the businesses grow tremendously. The bottom line is that when you come to Inman, yes, it's important to learn about apps, but I promise you that being good at sales is way more important than being good at Snapchat. So if you want to crack the conversion code, here's the key. You need to have more and better conversations with humans. I don't think the robots are going to win. And so what I'm going to go through is I'm going to go through how to use these technologies to create the conversations, but the key is that when you go back, you can't hide behind your screen. Quit using technology to avoid people. Start using it to interact with more. So my first kind of big-time boiler room experience was for a guy named Lou Pearlman. Lou Pearlman's a creepy dude, if you guys Google him later. Multi-billionaire. He discovered NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. And between the training I got at Lou Pearlman's company and then I went and worked for a guy named Dan Gilbert, he created and started Quicken Loans. He also is the person who owns the Cavs. Sorry to bring that up here. But here's what I learned, you guys. Tone, enthusiasm, and then mindset. These are the keys to people being the most successful at inside sales. What Dan Gilbert did when I went to the training is he drew a circle and he said, guys, this is going to be a breakdown of how human beings communicate. Because if you're going to go in the boiler room and make calls for me for the next couple years, I'm going to give you a lesson that'll help you make more money. He basically said that 55% of human communication is body language, about 38% is tone, and then only 7% is words. And so if you're in the boiler room, guess what, guys? People can't see you. They don't see how nice your hair looks, Heather. You know, it does. They don't see that you look trustworthy and that you're sort of genuine. So my coach at Lou Pearlman's company, he said, Chris, when you get on the phone, if you want to close somebody, it's very simple. You have to have the ending of enthusiasm. He said the reason enthusiasm ends with IASM is because I am sold myself. If you don't have a positive mental attitude and a great tone, here's the other thing about mindset. This will blow you guys away. When I worked at Move Inc., selling for Realtor.com and top producer, the inside sales channel dominated the outside sales channel for revenue. But what I learned is that when you're generating leads online, you actually have to have the right expectations. So here's a little data for you guys to break down. I'm going to move to this side for the monitor. In 2011, guys, actually let me start over here. In 2011, 2.9 million real estate leads were generated. 4.4 million homes were sold. In 2014, there were 40 million leads, 5.1 million homes sold. So if you're in an industry where you actually get 8 times more leads than deals, you have to have the right mindset that if the first 7 people of the morning tell you to fuck off, that's normal. There's a guy from a company called Estately. They generate a ton of internet leads that they route to agents right away. He said the best people at working leads have a black lab mindset. They're absolutely thrilled to see every single lead. The other thing I learned as I researched sort of conversion and I looked at how the best companies handle lead conversion, it actually comes down to something that I can break down for you, STT, which is speed, tenacity, and then time blocking, okay? So your ability to convert an internet lead, if you actually look at the difference between 5 minutes and 30 minutes, there's a 100x increase in the ability to convert a lead between minute 5 and minute 30. But if you look at the companies that do internet lead gen, the average company responds in over 3 hours. 47% of internet leads never get called. But thankfully, per HubSpot, 50% of internet leads choose the first person they speak with. So speed kills when it comes to conversion. You don't have minutes, you have seconds. You don't have hours, you have minutes when it comes to lead follow-up. And then tenacity, this is an interesting stat as well. If you call an internet lead in the first 5 minutes, you still only connect with about 48% of them. If you actually will make 5 more attempts per lead, you go from 1 dial to 6, you can take your contact rate from 48% to 93%. So sometimes it's just about effort. Sometimes it's about being tenacious. I won't ask you to raise your hand if you've ever gotten a lead and called it once or twice, but I'm guessing almost every hand would go up if I did ask that. Because we call a lead once or twice and then we move on. So it's about speed, it's about tenacity, but here's the other thing it's about. It's about time blocking. Between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 a.m., and between the hours of 4 and 6 p.m., those are the times during the day that you have the highest chance of having someone answer when you call. It makes a lot of sense. It's sort of on their way to work before they get home, right? It's definitely, like, I'll have to be honest. If you come and work for me at Curator, and you're going to do inside sales for me, I'm not going to chain you to your desk, but you better be at your freaking desk from 8 to 10 and from 4 to 6, because that's when we dial for dollars. So there's science behind when people will actually pick up the phone as well, which I thought was really fascinating. So it's about speed and tenacity. One last point here. I want you guys all to write this down. Double dial. When you call a lead in 2016, and you're calling them from a number they don't recognize, what do you think they're going to do, guys? They're going to ignore it. So what do we do when they ignore it? You call back immediately. If you miss a call and you don't recognize the number, and then like they call again and it's like, man, is somebody hurt? I better pick this up. That's called the double dial. That might be the tip of the conference, sorry. So time blocking, tenacity, and speed are the keys to getting more conversations. Applying some of the billionaire advice I got, our startup Curator is only about 36 months old, and we are approaching 10 million in annual recurring revenue. And people think it's because of the books and the blog, and it's because of the boiler room. It's not because of the blog. The blog helps the boiler room stay busy. So the last thing I want to show you guys is how to have great conversations. Because when you're calling an internet lead, this ain't your sphere. This ain't your past clients. You have to actually understand that there is a science to selling someone just like there is a science to marketing and technology. Let me show you guys what my first ever coach drew, and I never forgot it. If I was you guys, I would draw this if I could. I have not the best drawer here. But this is the science of sales. That's it. Your job when you're selling someone on the phone or in person is actually very simple. You have to get them more emotionally bought in than the cost during the time you have them. Then and only then you can do what? Close them. But if you don't have a conversation, you're not going to get a customer. If you're over here getting hung up on in the first minute all day long, you're not going to get to the point where you can ask them to work with you. I found at every job I've had, a meaningful conversation that led to a client could take anywhere between 20 and 60 minutes. And so if you're getting a call from a lead, like when I was at Quicken Loans, every single lead would call in, or we'd call them, and they'd say, oh, I don't want to refinance, I just want to know what the rates are. Every lead would say that. Some of you that sell real estate, you get a buyer lead from the internet. I don't want to make an offer or go see it. I just want to know if it's still available. You guys ever get a call like that? So what I call those guys, and even at Curator, it's like, I don't want to sign up. I just want to know if it's available. So that's a natural human thing to do. I call that a brick wall statement. And your job as a salesperson is to get around that brick wall so you can keep the conversation going. And to do that, there's a really cool technique you guys can use. It's called ARP, A-R-P. When you're on the phone and someone gives you that brick wall, hey, Chris, I'm not really looking to go see the home yet. I just want to know if it's still for sale. The first thing you do when someone gives you that brick wall, guys, is you acknowledge what they said. Oh, you just wanted to go see if the home's still for sale? I'll be happy to take a look at that for you. Remember, we're not face-to-face, so we have to almost say back what they said. Oh, you just want to know what the interest rates are? No problem, I'll pull those up. You acknowledge what they said before you respond. But then what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a response that's wet, which means works every time. So here's an example. You get a call in from an internet buyer. Hey, I just want to know if the home's still for sale. Oh, you just want to know if the home's still for sale? No problem, I'll look that up for you. If you found it on Zillow, it probably sold a year ago. How long have you been looking for a home, sir? Right, that's the pivot. So it's acknowledging what they said. Oh, you just want to know what the interest rates are? Great question. They're the lowest they've ever been in the history of interest rates. How much are you looking to save on your monthly payment, sir? That's the pivot back to the discussion we need to have. So you basically establish what those brick walls are and then establish the ARPs that work to get around those, which is really cool. The last thing I want to cover is how to pitch over the phone. There are so many salespeople that I listen to them trying to sell somebody over the phone, and it's pathetic. And a lot of people in this industry, they call themselves salespeople, and they are marketers. They are not salespeople. And so when you're pitching something, whether that's on the phone, whether that's face-to-face, Alec Baldwin got it right, you guys. How many of you know what that stands for? You guys took that too literal, by the way. You're like at Starbucks closing people. You're in the elevator like giving them your, right? That's not what he meant. What he meant is it's actually an acronym, guys, called FBT. And if we're going to get these people more excited than what we sell, we're going to actually have to come up with about 4 to 6 of these. It's called feature, benefit, tie down. Everybody in this room, when they pitch, here's what they do. They do feature, 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 close. And they wonder why they can't close anyone. If you don't turn the corner and say, here's how this feature is going to benefit you, do you agree? Then you go to the next feature. That's how you move the conversation up. And so I was actually teaching this to one of our clients in Savannah, Georgia. She's awesome. She's Julie Farmer, Live, Love, Savannah, if you want to look her up. And she goes, Chris, I love those FBTs. I said, what do you mean, Julie? She said, I tell them what it is, I tell them how it helps them, and I say, do you agree? You can make this your own style, guys, but speaking in tie downs is why people buy things. That's how it actually works. So when you're pitching and you get to the end and you've kind of gotten them more excited than the cost, there's actually a very simple way to close people without it getting awkward. What I found is a lot of salespeople, they'll get to the end of their call. You guys know that moment where you know they want to do it, they know you want to do it, right? Everybody's sort of on the same page, but then you get to the end and you're like, so what'd you think? Should I get the paperwork ready? Are we doing this? My coach told me one time, he said, Chris, I want you to remember one thing when you're closing. Lions don't ask lambs for food. I never forgot that. What you do, guys, when you close someone is you use what's called a transitioning closing statement. So you've got them bought in, you can hear that they're excited, They say, great, yeah, Chris, that feature seems to benefit me. And you're going to say this, very simple. Okay, great. Here's what happens now. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. You start foreshadowing the process of what it's like to work together. So if you sign up for Curator, we're going to get your website set up. We're going to get your Facebook ads going. We're going to build your landing pages. We're going to get your blog set up. We're going to get all your leads in one place, finally, for the first time in your career. And as a part of doing that, we have coaching on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Which one's better for your team? That's called a trial close. If you sell homes and you're talking to a seller, hey, we're going to go in the MLS, we're going to pull comps, we're going to do that, this, that, and the other, and we're also going to get professional photography done. Would you like the photographer to come during the week or on the weekend? Which one's better for you? That's called a trial close. And if they answer that question, guys, what should I do? Now I know I can close them. And now I'm going to use the last technique called a slot close. So here's the process. Coaching happens on Tuesdays and Thursdays. What's best for your team? They're going to say, Thursday's best. So here's my slot close. Did you want to use a credit or debit card for the payment? Did you want to use a business or personal card? Would you please read me the digits 16, all of them, 4 at a time, left to right? You got to swagger up when you're closing. You can't get, oh, so can I come out tomorrow at 1 or 3? Neither. So there is a science to sales, guys. I remember the day after my coach fired all those people, he came in and here's what he drew. He gave us an awesome lesson. He said, guys, when I fired all those people yesterday, a lot of them came to me and asked for their jobs back. And I want to tell you why I didn't rehire any of them. The first woman came in and she said she was pregnant and she had been not getting a lot of sleep. The second guy came in and said he was going through a divorce. The next lady came in and she said her kids were sick. And he said, the reason I didn't care about anything that they said is when I look at your numbers each week and each month, when we built the form, this Excel doc to check them, we only leave room in the box for the numbers. No excuses fit. That's why they didn't get their jobs back. If you want to go back after Inman and make more money as a broker, as a tech company, if you want to go back and sell more homes as a real estate agent, you can't just come here and master the latest fads. You need to get back on the goddamn phone. Thank you guys so much. Hey, real quick, you guys, Inman was kind enough to send 100 copies of my best-selling USA Today book that the talk was based on. I'm going to be in the hub from noon to 12:30, signing them. It's first come, first serve. Hopefully I get to meet a lot of you guys out there. Thank you so much.